decide who is going to take care for the job. So you can create a schedule where, for example, all operations would just rest on the assembly department line, on the packing department line, on the painting department line when you start this visual scheduler, and then somebody could go in here and say, okay, this job which had been scheduled to the assembly department now has to be done by somebody, and the shop foreman decides, okay, this is something that actually Mike should take care of. So we support changing the start and the end date by all the operations by the horizontal movements, but we also support reallocation of production orders to in between work machine centers, but also from a work center to a machine center by these horizontal by these vertical movements. And when you press save data, then the data again is updated. An interesting thing to be aware of is just when we remember, I think the production orders we have looked at so far here and also in Mike's presentation, then they all were sequential, which means that one operation follows the other. However, the NAV system also allows you to define parallel or partly parallel processes. So I now chosen double-clicked this orange production order here, and when we look at the routing, how this is set up, then you will see that this starts with an operation number 5, and this operation 5 is followed by 2 operations, by 10 and 20. So this should be read as once 5 is finished, we can start with 10 and 20. And then we have things happening in parallel. So we have operation 10 and 20 happening in parallel. And when 10 is ready, we start with the operation 30. And when 20 is ready, we start with operation 40. And only when both 30 and 40 are finished, we can continue with operation 50 and then finish with operation 60 after 50 is finished. So you can set up a routing also like this when you can process when you have processes that can run in parallel. And of course, the visual scheduling tool is capable of handling these operations. So just when we look at this production order here, it is starting here. Then we have 2 parallel operations with their successors, and then this is operation 50 and this is operation 60. So just for the sake of the demo data, we build it in a way that we have a double booking here again at the CNC machine. So now I can take one operation out of this partly sequential process and move it, and then all the others are moved along with it, keeping the routing in place and having the parallel structure. And keeping the parallel structure. And what you now saw is by moving this operation 20, the subsequent operation 40 had been moved, and now when 40 and 30 are finished, we can start with 50, which is up here, and 50 does not start immediately after 40 is finished, because when 40 is finished, here would still be work time, but with the assembly department there is work-free time already. So it's shift end, and so it starts at the morning of the next day. So now what you see, and I expand the screen so that you can see it better, by this automatic movement of this operation 50, you not only have the red border indicating that data has been changed and not yet saved back, but also you get this red hatching, and this red hatching tells you, hey, now due to the automatic movement, this operation and this operation actually have been moved past the initially defined due date. So we can also see this again when we look at the other view, at the production order view, and look at this in more detail. So now we see these operations. We see this milestone symbol for this production order, which was the initially defined due date. And now we see that these 2 operations are past the due date. So the production order view always helps kind of monitoring if you manage to finish all the jobs in time, whereas the resource view helps you with decisions how to reschedule operations in order to best utilize capacity. So now you might think, hey, why do they allow this operation actually to be moved past the due date? Well, the reason is that we thought we should build a visual tool and leave the final decision-making process to an individual rather to an algorithm. And so what could happen is that you have two operations that compete for one resource, and you definitively know that you will be late with one of these if you don't make changes. So one alternative could be that you partly increase the capacity of the bottleneck resource, which means, for example, that you ask people to work on a weekend. So you have a shift for one weekend, and then you finish both in time. This could be a decision. But if you can't do this because you're already running weekend shifts and you have no means to partly increase the capacity, then you would need to take the decision which operation to be late or which production order to be late. And I fundamentally believe that this is a decision which is always different for every situation that you have, and that you can't model this in an algorithm. So you could argue to say, okay, I never want to have an operation or a production order to be late for my top 3 customers. This is a cool rule, and I think this would work in many cases. But imagine a situation you have these two competing production orders. The one is one of your top 3 customers with whom you have a long-standing and trustful relation, and the other one is with a new customer that you just won, and with whom you think you will do major business in the future. So in this case, the rule may produce a misleading result, and it would be much easier to just call the good customer with whom you have the great relation and say, look, we've been doing business for so long time, we've always been in time, and now for this reason we ask you that we can deliver a day late because we want to accelerate another order to win a new customer who could become as strong as you, so that will help us to become a stronger company. And so because of these scenarios and these thinking, we thought we should leave the decision whether you want to be late or not to the individual, to the person, and not to an algorithm. And so what you now can do is you can save the data, and then the due date will be pushed out, or you can quickly look at here if you have free capacity before these activities take place. So we see from here on the CNC machine, we have before this operation some flexibility, and before this operation we have some free capacity on the drilling machine, and there is also some capacity here at the assembly department. So if I move this one here, move it a little bit again, then again this issue here also is solved. And the same situation, by the way, is also true for, and here's a good example actually, is also true for the capacity overload. So you could argue that you don't want to have these cases, that you don't want to have a capacity overload. But I think a capacity overload like this is nothing negative and does not need an algorithm to optimize this for you, because remember, all of the information you see here, and also the duration of the jobs is actually calculated from the routings. And in the routings, and we can quickly look at this again, in the routings you define the setup time, the run time, the wait time, and the move time. And we all know that these are always average values. And so if you have a situation like this, and if the shop foreman knows that for this specific production order, he can run the machine a little faster than had been defined in the standard routing, then this actually is no problem, because he will be able to finish this production order in time. So what we have, we looked at the production order view, we looked at the resource view. What we have as a third view, and this is more a report than an interactive drag and drop scheduling view. It is the histogram view, which shows you these capacity load charts for all work centers and for all machine centers on one screen, so that you can immediately see what the expected capacity utilization based on the current production schedule will be for a given period. And of course, this and all the other three views is not only available on the screen and on the PC or on the web browser, but of course you can print this if you like, and then you get a suggestion which always tries to distribute the data from the time frame that has been set in the settings to distribute this data best on a number of sheets. But of course you can go in here and set this up like you would expect this to set up and say, okay, I'm not interested in a 4 or 5 weeks period, but I'm only interested in next week. So you can say, okay, show me next week starting Monday the 20th to the end of this week, which is 26, and then you can apply this, and you say, okay, this is a little bit rubbish to have this on 2 pieces of paper, I only want to have it on 1 piece of paper. Then you see the expected capacity load of all work and machine centers for the next week on one screen. You can print it, you take it to meetings, you can make notes, and then or whatever, put it up on a SharePoint or deal with it however you would like to deal with it. Also, I think what I recommend, what you should always do is think of the amount of data you want to see and you need to handle given your de facto production and your time horizon. So you saw it initially that I have set this up in a way that I'm looking a week back and 4 weeks into the future. This may be good for some of you, and this may be completely misleading for other people on the call. And so you have the capability to set this up here, you as a user, so that you can decide and define on which data you want to look at. So you can say, okay, I don't want to look a week back, but I just want to look a day back, and I want to only look 2 weeks in the future, and this is okay for me. And voila, now you have less data, and this could be okay if you only plan 2 weeks out. Also, what we have here, we have the capability actually to set data filters, so to reduce the amount of data that is sent to the production scheduler, and you can configure it from here. And when we look at it, we see that you can filter on any work center field, on any machine center field, and any production order line field. And I have defined my filter here in a way that I only show planned, firm planned, and release production orders. I know that there are customers who also love to see and like to work with simulated production orders. So if I filter this here and define a filter like this, of course I need to reload the data, then more data is pushed from NAV into the production schedule. And so now I have the capability to see the simulated production orders both in this view and in this view. So then I get an impression of how this will impact my capacity load.